Good evening. Welcome to the March 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Chappaqua Central School District Board of Education. The board has been in executive session since 6:30. I apologize for our late start this evening. Can I have a motion to re-enter the public meeting? All in favor? Aye. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we're going to begin with the swim team. So thank you, Hillary, for allowing me to start the night honoring our boys swimming and diving program. So Mr. Curtis, if you can come up, and if Warren and Hillary could approach the table. And then we're going to call all of the boys up, and they're going to stay up on stage as we go through the list. And I also, before Mr. Curtis, our athletic director, begins, I want to congratulate Meg. This is her second state championship this year. So, okay, Mr. Curtis.
All right, thank you for having me. So I'm Jeff Curtis, the not quite as new athletic director as I was the last time that I had this presentation, but still just as proud. And I actually wanted to call up Coach Meg and Coach Jeannie right now for their second state championship. I just want to acknowledge these two amazing humans for all that they've done for me as athletic director and our swimmers. So come on up. And it's rare to have a state championship level coaching staff in your school district. It's even more rare to have that happen twice on consecutive seasons. And I have had the pleasure of knowing these two young ladies for quite a while now, and it is my honor to work with you. So thank you for everything so far. And on to the rest of our presentation. Thanks to the Board of Ed for hosting another exceptional group of student athletes. I know our coaches and our swimmers are excited to be here. Thanks, Dr. Ackerman, Andrew Corsilli, as well as the rest of the admin team. And to our board members, Hillary, Warren, Kaylee, Jane, and Allison, thanks again for having us. For me, 2 weeks in a row, I presented budget last week, and now I'm here again for a second season in a row. I introduced Meg and Jeannie already. As you probably know, our boys were state champions, and they are here with us tonight. They are also Federation champs. We'll talk about what that means in a second. But I thought, like I did with the girls, that I would start by telling you some of the things that have happened to and for them recently. This has been a busy week. Monday night was their team dinner. Last night, the town of Newcastle honored them. Today, if you didn't feel any different, you should have, because today is officially their day, according to Newcastle, the official 2022 Boys G Swim Day in Newcastle. So congratulations. I have the proclamation right here. I just tweeted it. So here's what's been going on. As I mentioned, they just had that proclamation, and today is their day. Additionally, the team members, I think last night, were given a key to the city. Again, that was something we did with the girls swim team, and now that has been repeated. And now tonight, we are here to honor them as a school district, as a Board of Ed, to recognize their efforts, their teamwork, and their excellence. The day they came back from winning the state title, that Monday, we read the following announcement, although I have modified it in the interest of time for today. Led by seniors Alex Dew, Yusuf Kamal, Adam Nak, Nikita Sakaruk, and John Su, the G Swim swam to 1, an undefeated dual meet season, 2, undefeated conference champions, 3, section champions with a record point total of 444.5, and New York State and Federation championships with 194 points, nearly 40 points ahead of their nearest competitor. With this win, Greeley is the best swim team of all public, private, and parochial schools in the great state of New York. Right here. At sectionals, let's see. Did that? Good. Sorry. At sectionals, the 200 free relay team broke a Greeley record that stood since 2016. The 400 free relay team broke a Greeley record that stood since 2011. This squad of 32 swimmers continue the long and storied history that these two fine humans, as I mentioned, helped facilitate for Horace Greeley High School. 16 of our swimmers qualified for sectionals. 11 of our swimmers qualified for one or more strokes at states, which was the biggest representation of any other school in New York State. Congratulations. Let's see, here are some specific championships. The 200 free relay of Sue, Knack, McHugh, and Sakaruk set a Greeley record and were state and federation champs. The 400 relay team of Chung, McHugh, Sue, and Sakaruk set a Greeley record and were state and federation champs. This is a dedicated and deep group, including the swimmers that aren't here, who willingly spend long hours both in and out of the water training. Their accomplishments reflect a commitment to teamwork, hard work, and trust for each other. The coaches made history for all of us for doing what they did. Undefeated, 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 on and on. Congratulations. As I said, in the fall, state championships don't happen that often, but one just did. After the girls did it, we actually have a group here that one-upped them because it was barely possible by beating all of the other schools, not just the public. So congratulations. As I said to them, this second championship is yours. Thank you for sharing a small part of it with us tonight. We are happy and pleased for you, so congratulations to our 11 student athletes. Without further ado, the board would like to call up each and every athlete. Oh, I forgot. We also had 2 Con Ed Award winners this season from one team. Another outstanding and unheard of achievement. So again, congratulations to our 11 student athletes who represented Horace Greeley at the State New York Swim Championships at Ithaca College earlier this month. So we are now going to call up our swimmers in no particular except alphabetical order. First up, Hudson Chung, one of those Con Ed Award winners. And since you can't see it, the gentlemen are picking up a medal and a highly sought after hat. Next up, Jack Cornish. Warren will be accepting Jack Cornish's award tonight. Next up, Alexander Du. Next up, Eric Engel. Next up, Oliver Engel. Next up, Connor McHugh. Next, Adam Knack. Next up, Eric Nadecki. Next up, Nikita Sakaruk, again, a Con Ed Award winner. Next, Trey Schloman. And last, but certainly not least, Jonathan Sue.
All right, if the board could come up, we're going to take a picture up in front so we can put it in the newsletter. So Hillary, Warren, and Kaylee and Jane, if you can get on up there with, we're going to take a picture. We're going to put it in the newsletter. I would just like the swimmers, oh, they're putting those hats on. Other than the admin team, the girls swimming team is the only other team with those hats. So, oh man, this is great. All right, put those hats on. I gotta get a picture of these.
She has 2. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you again. Board of Ed, thanks for having us. And you don't want to mess with the streak by talking about it, but we have another season coming up next fall. Let's see. Coach, three-peat. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, that's cool. I know.
Thank you for coming, and thank you to our parents for being here tonight. Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, should I get started? Okay, great. Well, congratulations again to Greeley Swim. This is very exciting. Well, it's freezing. They need the hats. Okay, so welcome to our first official meeting of spring. We are actively planning for next year on many fronts. Obviously, our budget presentations are with an eye towards next year, but we're also continually making program adjustments with an eye towards improvement. On that note, we've gotten, for those of you who've joined us, we've been getting feedback around the 8th grade math program over the last several weeks. And while there have been some adjustments made, such as the addition of a co-taught classroom for next year, we understand that parents still have some concerns and reservations about the current model. We also know that many of the concerns being expressed were based on the first year of the rollout of the 8th grade Algebra for All. And there have also been many changes for this current school year to address the first year concerns, so that hopefully many of the concerns being expressed may have already been addressed. I wanted to let the community know that we are adding a presentation to our calendar in May, and we will announce exactly which meeting. The first meeting in May, we will be having a presentation on the 8th grade math program. And the reason we're waiting a few weeks to do that is we want to hear how it is going this year for both teachers and students. And waiting until May will allow the administration to have more data to present to us on how the students are performing this year on objective metrics. So we encourage parents to either attend or watch this presentation over the live stream. Nothing is set in stone, and we want to make sure that if adjustments are made to the program, that they're made using data from our current students, as the program this year is not identical to the one last year and has already been refined to better support our students. So we will be getting a presentation on that math program, on 8th grade math, at our first May meeting. And we encourage everybody who's interested to attend either in person or, over the computer, and then you can get back to us. Also along the lines of feedback, I mentioned last week that we are planning to host some board and community forums around areas of our strategic plans, starting with our diversity and equity work. Given that this work began with community forums and was really rolled out over during the COVID period where we weren't all together, we thought it was a good time to check in and see what we're doing well and where there's room for improvement. We've heard from a lot of parents with both very positive and less positive feedback, but we want to make sure that there's room for all voices to be heard who may not feel comfortable just sending us an email or calling. So we really encourage people to sign up to join us for one of these forums. We will also be holding forums for students and faculty. So the ones that we're sending out this email invitation are for adults only, please, in our community. So look out for an email invitation from the board in the next week or so, and the forums themselves will be scheduled after spring break, and all of those dates will be in the email. And we really love for community members to join us and talk to us. We want to hear your feedback. Other than that, things are bustling back to life around here. Spring sports are starting up, and the Bell Musical is this weekend. I've gotten several emails that STEM Fest is going to be live this year at Greeley, so there's a lot of great things happening, and we look forward to seeing a lot of you out and about and at all these great events.
Okay, thank you, Hillary, and we will start with the community update and then move into the budget presentations tonight. So if you could just get my slides ready, please. When I was doing the community update this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, I only have about 4 or 5 COVID slides. So we're going to transition back to talking about some happenings throughout the school district. So I'm really happy to be able to share that with you. So you'll see our vaccination rates have basically stabilized. All of our schools are above 80%. I'll just continue to update you throughout the remainder of the school year, but I don't anticipate there'd be much fluctuation at this point any further. I did want to share with you our positive cases to date. So right now we have 10 total cases in the district from Saturday to Wednesday. We have 1 lab certified and 9 home tests. So I also wanted to share with you in terms of hot lunch, we plan to have all of our hot lunch ready and up and running again by April 4th. If there need in the elementary schools, if there needs to be an adjustment because of equipment needs or due to staffing, we will let our parents know in those specific buildings. But Andrew's been working really hard with and our food services director to assess where we are currently so we can hopefully move forward in this way. I wanted to share with you how many students are sitting socially distant in our buildings K-8. We have 21 students throughout the district where we have spaces for them to eat 6 feet apart. In the cafeteria, we haven't had any issues. So this has been working out really well for us. These are students who have whose parents have self-selected this. I just want to remind the board and the community that students who are coming back from being COVID positive on days 6 through 10 must sit 6 feet apart. So it's pretty smooth. We haven't had any issues. I visited some lunches today. I appreciate the principals for setting this up in a way that's supportive of all of our kids, and so that kids feel fine wherever they're seated in our eating spaces. So thank you for that. And now we're going to move into some of the academic things that have been taking place in the district. So I asked Adam if he could talk about Superintendent's Conference Day that took place last week.
Thanks. So on the 18th, we had Superintendent Conference Day. It was a fantastic day of learning. It's been really 2 years since we've been able to really get together and mix it up as a faculty. It was a high energy day, beautiful weather, if you remember, put together a little montage of clips that you could see there as I speak about what happened for the day. But it was, we pulled out the Greeley mascot. We had the Quaker here, had some music to greet the faculty, a light breakfast, and then we jumped right in. We ran a variety of different types of sessions. We had Twitter chats. Dr. Sinanis ran one of those on classroom culture. We also had a Twitter chat run by Apple on personalized learning. We had Ed Camp sessions. Ed Camps are roundtables, kind of informal roundtable discussions. Highlight of that was we had 2 student Ed Camps. So some Greeley students ran one session on the race to college, another one learning beyond the textbook. Potluck PD is when teachers bring their very best lesson, not unlike like a potluck dinner where you bring your best dish. So teachers bring their best lesson and they share just these short bursts, 10-minute bursts of their best lesson so we can kind of cross-pollinate the best ideas across the district. We had 55 different symposium sessions. So symposium sessions were hour-long facilitated sessions. A variety of administrators and teachers offered those. We had some kind of ran the gamut from Canvas Junior all the way up to Dr. Ackerman ran a session on thinking maps, which had a social media life of its own as teachers tweeted about it after the day, which was great. Had a session on executive functioning, grading for equity, et cetera. Had quite a few guest experts as well. We had folks from Insight here running sessions. We had Apple EDU was here running sessions. Paul Anderson is a nationally kind of renowned NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards expert. He was here to work with the science department. And we had GNR Inclusive Group to help with PPS and special education. And then we had a variety of Greeley students participate, run sessions as well, as I had mentioned. So it was a really good day. It was nice to get back to that kind of professional development where we were mask optional. We could really move freely throughout the space in a way that the spaces were designed. All right, before I hand it over to Dr. Sinanis, I did want to just make one note. This is a slide from my budget presentation, and the slide was correct, but I just wanted to correct. I'm kind of going back to our last meeting. Slide was correct, but I think I misspoke, and I said that this new race course was SUPA. Jane had brought that up, and I think Allison had brought it up. It's not SUPA, it's SUNY. So the slide was correct, but I misspoke. So I just wanted to correct that publicly. And then I also checked the decisions booklet. You can see the cut and paste on the right side. The decisions booklet is accurate too. It's SUNY Albany. So the only thing that said SUPA was me in this meeting. So I apologize for that.
I think we brought it up too, because it wasn't your fault. I think it was our fault.
Either way, I just wanted to set the record straight. We do offer SUPA forensics, but the SUNY race course is offered through Albany. We're applying for the credits for that. So we expect to get that in the fall. So I just wanted to correct that. I apologize for misspeaking at the last meeting.
All right, so I asked Tony if you could share with you the progress we've been making with our Insight staff development. So Tony?
Sure. Thank you, Christine. So last time we spoke about the initiation and development of our district equity team, and you did approve that to serve as a fellowship. So the application for that went out about a month ago. It is due Friday. We have a number of staff who have expressed interest, who have completed the application. And so by April 5th, we will be determining who will be making that up. That will then subsequently lead to the school-based equity teams. There will be administrators, teachers. We're looking at including non-instructional staff as well on our equity team. So we're excited about that work. Additionally, Insight has been here for some PD. So it started our early dismissal days, February 18th. All faculty, participated in an implicit bias training. And there was a workshop sort of framing bias and explaining what bias was and forming that perspective. Teachers then went back and completed an implicit bias test. And on March 17th, continued with that work, picked up there, and then introduced the notion of equity detours, which is Paul Gorski's work. On May 18th, which will be the next slide, there was an optional session for staff facilitated by Insight that focused on using an equity lens with curricular decisions. And we also had Equity 101 for all our clerical staff and custodial staff. Andrew was there and Joe was there. I think one of the most exciting things about March 18th was to know that everyone on our staff engaged in a professional learning opportunity, systemic and thoughtful, and we're excited about what's coming up next.
Thank you, Tony. And then Jamie, if you can give an update on our special education strategic planning process.
Sure. The special education strategic planning team had its first meeting last week. There was a representative group of administrators, parents, teachers. Christine and Hillary were on it, and the group was facilitated by Jonathan Costa. Jonathan helped us do the district strategic plan and also the physical education strategic plan. We started by really becoming familiar with the recommendations that were a part of the PCG report and audit. So we're really getting a sense of what those are, and we are scheduled to meet again for a full day on April 1st, where we will really dig deep into those recommendations, begin to prioritize them, and craft the plan.
Thank you, Jamie. And so I just wanted to highlight a couple of events that are taking place in the next 2 weeks. So we have our stage band and chamber orchestra concert tomorrow night here at Greeley. We have our Bell Theater performance, which Hillary had mentioned in her report. So thank you to the PTA for supporting our K through 8 performance arts program. And that way, it's really important to our kids, and I'm glad we're able to support that again moving into this year. Modified sports begins Monday. Also on Monday night is this PTA Budget Forum, and our team will be there for parents to be able to ask us questions. And thank you, Peggy, for moderating that for the district. We begin our ELA exams in the next week. We have a fourth grade special education transition meeting that Jamie will be hosting. For our Seven Bridges family, Bell took place already. And then next week we have our Horace Greeley Scholarship Fund virtual spring benefit. So we look forward to seeing our parents at these events in the coming weeks, and we're happy to be able to support them alongside our partner organizations. So thank you. And now we're going to move into our budget presentations tonight that will be facilitated by Joe Gramando and Andrew Lennon. So I'm going to come over and we're going to just get organized right now. So. I think it's best if the board has any questions on any of the slides, just stop Joe and Andrew and they'll answer them right in the moment if that works out for everybody. So, okay. And Joe, welcome to the board table tonight. We're happy to have you. So, go.
Okay, thank you. Good evening for letting me present my budget tonight, proposed budget. I like to usually start off with a little bit of general information. So I have up here, the department is maintaining over 900,000 square feet on a daily basis. Our schools are open 15 hours a day, 5 days a week, various times over the weekend. Our custodians are cleaning an average of 30,000 square feet per night per cleaner. We're maintaining all the playing fields. And our maintenance personnel are taking care of about 150,000 square feet per worker. Through preventive maintenance, we're maintaining 675 pieces of HVAC equipment. We're currently in the process of our building condition survey, which is being done by KG&D. They visited all the schools already. They've had meetings with the custodians and every principal. And I expect to have a draft to share with Dr. Ackerman and Andrew Lennon by the end of the month. This BCS will help us create a new 5-year plan, which I'm very excited for. So here on these slides, this is in the proposed budget. These are our budget codes for repairs that we're looking to do. So these repairs correlate to the actual budget. So in the budget line 402, 5YP, we're looking to install a sidewalk, which will need a retaining wall. So if you look at the picture, you'll see where that is. It's at the corner of the gym. You can see the sidewalk ends, and there's no sidewalk going to the tennis court. And what's the safety problem there is anyone walking has to walk past all those parked cars in the roadway. And that includes students at the end of the day when they're leaving, because that's where they park. And when you're backing out, you really can't see who's walking. So it's a pretty serious safety issue. So we like to put a sidewalk there. It's going to need a small retaining wall. In the same budget line, we're looking to do some repairs on the covered walkways here at Greeley. We have some leaks and some rotted wood. We like to address that. The rest of the funds in that budget code would be for roof repairs and emergency repairs throughout the district. In 447, 5YP, missing a P there. Installation of additional cameras in the senior lot. So we have some broad angled cameras there, but it doesn't really help me see a license plate, or if there's an actual altercation happening, I can't see, you know, a person's face. So this would be to add additional cameras there in that lot. 429, sure.
Do we find that there are a lot of things that we're missing by not having, like, are there a lot of
I'll
issues?
answer that. So we don't really have I don't know if I would describe it as altercations, but the lot is really tight. And so it's helpful to have extra cameras in there in case we have an unintentional fender bender. Also, we've had to deal with issues in the past around maybe things being left on cars where it would have been helpful if we had a zoom in option or a lower camera so we could identify who might have left something on the vehicle. So there's enough that happens in that space, not only with our kids, but sometimes on the weekend when our kids aren't here, but other people are using it, that it makes sense to invest, to make this investment, we think, at this time.
Been some issues with, you know, with kids in high school, kids parking in the wrong spots, and then people get problems. Is that going to get wrapped up in that too? I mean, it's hard to manage that lot. We understand sometimes. So the cameras, I'm hoping, will help when there are situations.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be honest about it. We have very low incidence anywhere on campus, but if we were going to increase coverage, this would be one of the spaces we would want to do that. Because when something does happen there, in order to address that situation as efficiently as possible, having cameras in there will allow us to do that. Not having them makes it really complicated sometimes.
Right, to address it. Yep, nope, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, in the 429, 5YP, that's just our tree removal and pruning. section of the budget. So that's district-wide money we're going to spend to continue doing that, taking care of our trees. In section, in budget code 400, that is paving, that whole code is paving. And we're going to start doing some more of the roadways here at the high school. You know, a lot of them, you know, the buses that come through, so the roadways take a beating. So I need to spend some money to take care of that. In 401, that's our HVAC code for 5YP. This is actually a true 5-year plan project to install new unit vents in areas where we think we need to increase the, you know, the air quality. So we've put together a 5-year plan on that. This would be year 1 of it. Okay, and then here at the high school, when we built the STEAM Center, there was no air conditioning put in. The picture there on the right is the 3D printing room. So there was no air conditioning put in there, and those printers throw a lot of heat, and it's making it almost impossible to use the room. So we have to air condition it. So that is in that. And okay, so jumping into my budget, this is the building and grounds section of my budget. And the increases in this entire section are uniforms. There's $3,000 additionally in there. It's a union contractual thing to provide the uniforms. Heating fuel, I'm adding $50,000 to heating fuel. I'm adding $50,000 to natural gas and $50,000 to electric. We're seeing huge increases in cost here. And then there is an increase you'll see
Joe,
in.
can
Sure.
you go through seating numbers again? I can't see them.
Sure. Oh, so what we're looking to do there is we're looking to add 50,000. Did you want to know how much we have in there? So we're budgeting 425,000. And I have 375,000 for this year. We have 3 schools that actually use oil. The other 3 are on natural gas. And this campus is fully on natural gas at the moment. So,
Joe, can I ask, along the lines of what Warren's saying, in terms of how we purchase it, in terms of our oil and escalating prices, do they lock in a rate and how you purchase it so that we know that this won't be so fluid next year? Or how does that work in terms of as the year goes by? Like how do they price it for you? Or are you allowed a certain amount at a certain rate, et cetera?
so we purchase off of a state bid, and we pay a percentage over barge. So whatever the barge price is that day when I get the delivery, I pay a percentage over it. So that's how I track it. So if I know I got a delivery yesterday, I just look at the barge price and I know I paid, 2% above the barge price.
Okay.
It's a good price compared to what we're paying at our homes.
Right.
But I could be here. We could be spending about 60,000 in 1 month in heating season on oil.
So presumably, everybody's in the same boat, right? Like the prices for fuel right now are just through the roof because of everything going on. Has there been any conversation that you know of among, districts? Do we think there's any chance that the state will help us in any way? I mean, I think that, as we're all sitting here doing budgets, school districts across the state, everybody's going to be in this position, right? Where fuel is astronomical. Has there been any indication that there may be any help, for lack of a better word, that anybody may be able to support districts' fuel needs without bankrupting us?
Andrew, do you want to answer that?
I haven't heard anything kind of special lately in terms of subsidies or something of that nature. I think obviously what's happening in Western Europe right now is certainly putting some pressure on fuel prices that were not predicted at the beginning of this current school year. but certainly something to bring forward to our legislators.
So Joe, it looks like you're increasing your budget by about 12-13% for oil. Those numbers look right?
Yeah, we're looking for 50,000 more. And I'm kind of gauging that, hoping that things are going to level out. Like right now,
Hold on a second. Okay, sorry. Something was,
I hear it.
is there something wrong with the sound? Sounds like a chain is rattling up here. You hear that? Very bizarre. Someone rattling a can back there?
Coming from one of the mics.
Okay.
It is.
It's me. I was touching this thing.
Who is that?
It's mine. It's me. So Joe, it looks like you're budgeting about 13% increase for oil.
Correct.
So, I mean, my oil's gone up more than 13%.
I'm sorry.
My oil's gone up more than 13%.
Yes, but I'm feeling that we are going to go back to somewhat of a normalcy. Right now, what I'm running all of our buildings with no night setback. So that means they run heat 24 hours a day because I'm trying to run fresh air 24 hours a day because of COVID. So I'm betting on that I'm going to not do that in September. We would be saving a lot more oil if we weren't running these units 24 hours a day. Normally, at 4 o'clock, oil is shut down. You save an enormous amount of fuel. Weekends, we were running everything 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all through COVID.
So what happens if that doesn't happen?
Well, then, we're going to have to move money around. Like right now, I'm short probably I think I'm going to be short 60,000 to finish the year out. So Andrew and I are working on that right now where I'm going to move money.
And just so I understand, as we're moving into spring, is there still, if we can open the windows, is there still the need to run this 24/7, or can we open the windows and air the buildings out that way?
We can, and as spring comes in, yes, once the temperature gets over a certain degree, 58 degrees outside, the boilers themselves will shut down. My air handlers will keep running.
Okay.
So when we shut down the boilers, how do we get hot water?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. So in the last several years here, I have installed separate hot water heaters. So none of our boilers will run off season. We just run them off the hot water heaters.
So that's saving us money.
Saving us a lot of money.
Okay, that's a good thing.
If we had to, could we lower our threshold to like 55 degrees and tell everybody to put on a sweater? No, I mean, it sounds facetious, but I'm just
No,
trying to
we have
see.
we have a bottom line temperature. I think it's 65, right?
Yeah, I have to maintain 65 degrees in a classroom. Yeah, full times.
I think just on the fuel topic really quickly, we're showing about a 10% increase in natural gas as well, but that's going to see some offset because, as you all know, hopefully in the next few weeks, if not by early July, we'll be cutting the steam line that is in the roadway outside here because of the new boiler that's being put in for the gym building. We are burning a lot of extra fuel because that steam is leaking right now and has been leaking for quite some time. We're hoping that natural gas, savings will also materialize next winter.
Historically, when
Yeah.
you shut the boilers down, Joe?
Historically, when do we shut them? It all depends on outside temperature. So I start shutting them.
Mid-April, mid-May?
April, you definitely get some days, and in May, usually we're good.
So like by 1st of May, our boilers are pretty much
Yeah.
shut down.
That's what I'm estimating where I'm going to be spending. Andrew, thanks for bringing that up because that is a huge thing. We've been running a lot of steam because of the steam leak.
Mhm.
So that's another reason why I think that increase will be enough for next year.
And has our oil consumption, sorry about talking about oil so much, but has our oil consumption been flat for the last number of years, or relatively flat? Or have we increased, not counting new buildings coming online? whatever?
Not counting because of COVID, we have been on a decline because we put in all brand new controls. So we have way better control of the system. We've been changing equipment. The oldest boilers we have in this district are at Seven Bridges. So we have really efficient new boilers. I think we're doing a really good job. This number was way higher, 5 years ago.
I mean, the reason I'm concerned about this is a variable cost, right? I mean, if we look at our fixed costs, we know where they are. Oil, I'm sure I could go through this. You have almost all your costs are variable costs, probably except for salary.
Right.
Prices are going up on everything from, I know, I had spoken to you a while back, like line in the fields to grass seed.
Right.
So,
Right, grass seed's up 30%. I use a lot of grass seed. Yes, and what the problem with that is if I'm short and if I don't budget properly and I'm short, where do I get that money from? I take it from somewhere else in the budget. So that could hurt us with repairs or a capital project or something.
okay.
So yeah, it's very tricky.
Okay, sorry to dominate the conversation, but go ahead, Jim.
Sure. So and then if you look at there is an increase in the BOCES services, but that is not an increase that's increasing our entire school budget. That is being transferred. That budget line is coming from another section of the budget into B and G.
I'll talk more about that in my presentation in a few minutes.
Right. All the remaining codes, from what I had mentioned there, are all remaining the same amount of money that I have this year. Operations and maintenance, the only increase I have there is in contractual. Everything else, every number there is staying the same as well. Oh.
We lost a couple of slides in Joe's presentation there.
I could just talk to it. So the next slide would be my 5-year plan budget, and everything there is remaining the same except for safety, security, and lighting. We've added 20,000 to that.
I think the next couple of slides, the board has seen in the previous presentations that Dr. Ackerman and I have given. The first one is talking about the capital projects expenditures that we're going to ask the community for next year, which is an additional supplemental funding to the West Orchard roof project. We're going to increase that budget line, and I'll talk more about that as well. And then the last slide that Joe had was a slide that Dr. Ackerman shared about the continuing.
I'm sorry, Andrew, can you move the presentation?
No, it skips right to mine.
Are we missing the slides? Okay.
Yeah, they're missing this presentation.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we're okay because
So we're okay.
the
Yeah.
last two slides that Andrew's talking about is the capital project expenditure, which is the West Orchard Elementary roof replacement, which we showed you at the last meeting, and then the potential capital projects that we may need to support through a bond that we would be talking about in the summer. So we can, are there any more facilities questions for Joe or Andrew before Andrew moves into his portion of the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
So Joe, can you give us a little more detail on the BCG building condition survey? When do we expect that? What should we expect from that? What do you think that's going to tell us? And what kind of surprises are we going to get?
Sure. So I'm expecting within the next couple of weeks to have something to Dr. Ackerman and Andrew on that. And I think the board should see something in about 2 months. There's going to be no major surprises of what you're going to see in there, but you'll be surprised of the cost. I did my own building condition survey back in September just to give Andrew an idea of where our condition of our buildings are in, and I came up with $16 million worth of priority 1 projects. So
So was that 16 or 6D?
16 million.
1.6.
Yeah.
Okay.
In priority projects that, infrastructure only. So, I don't think you'll be surprised at what's in it, roofs, And you know, if you're looking at each school, there's, you know, brick pointing, there's, you know, floor tile work. I don't think you'd be surprised with that, but the number is going to be high. And then how do we work towards that? And I think Andrew and I have this conversation every week. Like, how are we going to, you know, address this, you know, and really create a 5-year plan that we can fund? Because I think it's essential that, you know, we get back on that. There'll be no huge surprises in there. Our major problems, you know, are roofs in the 3 elementary schools. And those are large ticket items, so I don't know if they'll be able to put them into a 5-year plan. That's some of my worry, because they would eat up, you know, one roof would eat up all the money in 1 year, and then we won't be doing the other infrastructure projects we need. So that's just some problems that we're going to have to work through. And I know it's high on our priority list. We're really thinking about it a lot.
And with all prices going up, how are we doing with the maintenance of all the buildings? We have any issues there, or are we good?
I mean, it's good. It's getting tighter and tighter, and I think it's something that, you know, we're going to have to look at again next year of, are we funding enough in the O&M budget to actually, you know, maintain everything that we're doing? We built a lot of beautiful areas, but we're not really increasing the O&M budget to take care of them. We have a greenhouse that's going in, and there's going to be a maintenance cost of that. We're not 100% sure what that maintenance cost is, so hopefully this year we're going to learn what that is and try to put it into next year's budget, because I don't have any money in this budget to, you know, do maintenance on that. I mean, like, glass is going to have to be clean. There's going to be a lot of things that have to happen. Our heating bill is going to be higher. I don't know, if we're running that thing at 74, 75 degrees to grow plants in the middle of the winter, it's single pane glass. It's a glass house. So that oil bill, right? That's going to be a huge increase in our oil. So we just don't know until we actually run it for a year. But, you know, those are things I think we're going to have to take a good look at. And my hopes is we're going to have this building condition survey, and we're going to really look at how we're going to fund it. And at that time, I'm hoping we'll be able to look at the operations budget as a whole, and where are we? Do we need to make any additional increases with costs going up so much? It's easy to say, okay, I don't have, you know, the funds for material. And if I don't have the funds for material, what do? I take them from the projects.
Okay.
You know, that's how I budget. And, you know, I'm hoping we'll be able to look at the department as a whole after we have this BCS.
Because, I mean, your team does a great job maintaining our buildings, and I want to make sure we keep that going. You know, I hear from people who come to our district and see our buildings, and they're always impressed by how the shape that our buildings are in, the condition our buildings are in, the floors are clean, there's no garbage around, the fields are beautiful. So, I mean, you guys do a great job with what you have to do. So I just want to make sure that we've got enough in the budget that that our budget's not top heavy in other places, to make sure that our buildings, because this is our biggest asset, right? Our biggest fixed asset.
Right. I appreciate you saying that, but I do want to say, you know, I want to thank, you know, the board, Dr. Ackerman, and the administration here, Andrew, because facilities is high on the priority list, and it makes my job a lot easier that you're all behind me and maintaining everything.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Warren, thank you for bringing up the condition of the facilities, because I do have to share, you know, Joe's team, 30,000 square foot of cleaning space per person. They do a phenomenal job. I think they really do make the buildings look great, and that's why some of these costs might end up being surprising to us.
I want to reiterate what Warren said, and I know we have a next series of walkthroughs coming through with health and safety and facilities, and it's really beneficial for us because we see the detail with which you go over and find with a fine-tooth comb these buildings, and it's noticeable. You're pointing out everything that's been done, that needs to be done, that can be done now, that we can budget for later, etc. And it's very impressive, and I feel very fortunate that we have a team, with your team, that goes through this with you and Andrew and everyone and the custodial staff, because we really see it, and these walkthroughs are really helpful for us and for you to give us an update on what's going on in all of our buildings, and that you stay on top of it and you keep improving your methods of staying on top of it is very impressive. So thank you. And we hope that, we hope all of this covers everything, which it always does, even though there's wish lists that we know you can't get to right away. But we appreciate the detail and the time that you put into this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Joe. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much, John.
All right, so now we're going to move over to Andrew.
So I'm going to do my best to go quickly through some of the slides because you've seen many of these before. So this is the strategic plan that we built this budget around, strategic questions, excuse me. Our proposed budget in total is $133,963,411, or a 2.69% increase. And we are going to maximize the tax cap at 3.173 million, or 2.79%. So this is a tax cap compliant budget, which is important, as you all know. You've seen these expenditure slides before showing the year-to-year increases and then the comparison year-to-year of the components of the budget. I think the important thing to see on this page is I shared last time, is 72% plus of our budget is salaries and benefits, right? So while we might talk about some facilities projects or some new curriculum items, the bulk of our budget is focused on staff and benefits. So the non-instructional budget is really broken up into 4 sections. There's the general support, the transportation, community services, and undistributed. I'll go through each of those in detail here. So general support is really everything from the board expenses, central administration, my business office and the staff in there, the human resources department, public information. We just went through the O&M budget, and then special items, which includes things like insurance and BOCES administrative charges and things of that nature. So in the Board of Education budget, it is broken up into 3 different kind of distinct pieces, right? There's the board expenses, which is really training, membership that the board might have, some travel and supplies, the district clerk expenses, and then the cost of the annual district vote and board election. In this category in total, and in several of the others in tonight's presentation, you'll see that the largest increases are driven by contractual obligations, and many of our other costs are remaining flat year to year. We did not see a need to increase many of those categories at this point. So in central administration, this is the chief school administrator, this is the superintendent of schools and her staff, and all the programs which we support through that budget. Some of them being contractual, travel and conferences. Again, in this category, the contractual obligations to staff are what's driving the increase here based on current contract obligations. In finance and auditing, so this is where the business office comes into play. And in the business administration section, you're going to see a 4% increase. However, it's broken up into 2 pieces, of which came from other parts of the budget last year. The first being in the non-instructional salaries line. We had a position that was in the athletic department for quite a while as a secretarial position there. That position has been moved into the business office to help supplement some of the work and segregate some of the duties to improve some of the controls based on recommendations we've gotten from the auditors. It's also taking with that work that was previously done in athletics for the invoicing and reservation of facilities use, right? So that work is going to be in the business office now and not in athletics. In the BOCES line, as Joe mentioned earlier, there are some items we're moving around on the BOCES bills to more appropriately align with the functional area for which they support. So you'll see in the BOCES line here, there's a small increase, which is really just a move from one of the lines I'll talk about later. But that's largely what is driving the increase in this budget is those 2 items. In the auditing line, we have a $6,000 increase. We are due for an RFP for our internal auditor. So we expect after 5 years of that fee being fixed at a fixed fee, we will have some increases there. We're also seeing claims audit increases that we anticipate we'll need some additional funds there next year.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of, in each of these, there's contractual, which I have to say remains confusing to me, like what gets thrown into that bucket, you know?
So
like if we look at finance and auditing now, and you go across contractual, and, you know, we budgeted, you know, there's some years we budget 60,000, it's 291, like what's, like, I don't understand that.
So
personally?
the 291 line for the current actuals, that's many of the consultants we've been hiring for the Zardor property. A lot of the expenses are being accounted for in there because there's no other home really for them in the instructional budget or elsewhere.
Okay, and if we go up, like even, when you see that, like whether it's central administration or even under our board, so like some of those contractual ones, I guess I'm just not sure what all falls under those categories.
Sure. So contractual kind of is a catch-all bucket, right? So it might be things such as NISBA memberships might fall in there. Some professional development, if we have a consultant come in or that nature. Those types of things would fall in those categories. If you're talking about the business office, we have some cooperative bidding programs that we use, like Ed Data, which publicly bids supplies for us, and it's an ordering system that helps us kind of separate the purchasing function into the buildings, and we know we get bid pricing on that. So those types of things would fall in there. Let me go back up to.
And if we go like under the board, if we look under like
sorry.
district meeting and like salaries, what falls under that? Like under.
Right, so that would be any salaries we pay in support of the annual budget vote, right? So we might have election inspectors, we might have some clerical staff doing some work. So that's the type of expenses that would fall in there.
Okay, all right, no, that's helpful, thank you.
Yep. In that line as well, you'll see contractual things for like if we have to do voting machine rentals or printing fees for the ballots, like those would all fall under contractual in that category.
All right, thank you for clarifying.
Yep. Did you have any questions on the business administration side before I continue on? Okay. So then in our legal services, human resources, and public information, legal services, we've had some good years. So we're going to keep the budget flat there. HR, the only increases you'll see there are related to contractual obligations essentially there as well. And then public information, again, contractual increases for staff salaries and related expenses. Everything else, we've really tried to maintain at a zero base from year to year. In special items, it's a weird category to have, but it includes things such as our district insurance. So we are insured by NYSER for our Board of Education policy, our liability policy, our cybercrime policy. All those fees would fall under unallocated insurance. And then I'm going to drop down to the BOCES administrative services line. You'll see that this line is decreasing quite substantially. And that's because in this line for several years, we had been including two things. Some business office functions that really belonged in the 1310 Business Administration Code for things like our financial system. We wanted to appropriately categorize that as a business administration function. So we pulled that out. And then more substantially was safety and risk management and our school facilities reservation system were both included in this code previously. They both fit squarely in the facilities department. So I felt it was important to pull those out, to not include them in the BOCES administrative charge, which really is meant to count for the fees that we get allocated as being a member of BOCES, right? I want to be very specific about what's in there. We shouldn't get subscription type services that we participate in that line. So that's why you'll see that change. Other than that, they're moved, right? And they're both moved, and you saw them before in the 1310 codes for business and in the 1620 codes that Joe presented a few minutes ago. So transportation, we are keeping most of our costs flat there, with the exception, obviously, of our transportation provider. Our transportation provider is, the contract is renewed annually based on CPI, and CPI is quite high, as I mentioned. We are projecting status quo from the number of vehicles that we have on the road and monitors, right? So we should be able to maintain this budget in this way next year. I'll keep the kind of broken record. Salaries are related to contractual obligations for staff that are due increases. Any questions about transportation? So you all know the transportation program quite well. K through 8 students, if they're within a half mile, they are walkers. 9-12, within a mile, they would be walkers. There's obviously safety issues in certain areas where they would be exceptions to that rule, but we run about 39 big
Because that's not actually true here, right? Like, we bus all our kids.
This is the state mandates. So in many of the cases that because of safety issues, we would not be able to operate with these expectations. So we do bus all the kids.
Some of our students are walkers that live around Bell and Grafton, but we have, this is more for bus stops.
Bus
Here,
stops,
yeah.
okay.
Because sometimes parents would like bus stops closer to their homes, and we have to have a parameter because some of our buses can't make it up.
No, that I understand.
So it just has a budgetary impact, so the minimum guideline to help drive those decisions.
I never knew it was a mile from 9 to
Right.
12. I thought it was shorter. Learn something new.
Sorry, these were from a previous budget presentation. So I'll go back and verify
No,
those
that's
just to
okay.
make sure.
No,
Yep.
that's, yeah, no, thank you for bringing it back in. No, but like you said, we bus everybody and they always have a bus stop. That seems appropriate, so.
We have about 39 big buses on the road, 20 vans for general education students, 16 vans for special education needs, and 20 monitors. And then we've listed some of the things that we do not get charged for based on the transportation contract that we have in place right now. Community service is really just an allocation of a staff salary, a portion of one of the staff salary who deals with registration. Probably didn't need a full slide, but we'll keep moving because it's only $23,000. And then undistributed, this is where we see some really big ticket items, right? So certainly part of the conversation we need to have is employee benefits, our debt service, and our interfund transfers. We've talked in pieces about all of these in the budget presentations thus far. So employee benefits, as I've mentioned in previous presentations, our health insurance costs are going up about $1.1 million in total for our health plan. That is an 8% premium rate increase, certainly offset by some employee contributions, but that is significant in terms of the impact on the budget. The employees retirement system is actually a decrease in the pension for our clerical and our custodial staff based on the rate that we're charged from the state, but TRS is going up this year. And then as salaries go up, so does the Social Security contribution for our staff. The rest of these categories are relatively flat year to year with some minor tweaks based on the number of headcount and the types of coverage for different expenses here. So all in all, our employee benefits are going up $908,000 or 3% year over year. In debt service, bonds and principal and interest for our bonds, which are our capital construction bonds, are flat year to year. That's a requirement based on the way we have to borrow for those projects. So there's not an increase there. And our EPC contracts at the bottom of this slide are fixed based on some of the energy performance needs that we've done a few years ago. Where you'll see an increase here is something that both myself and Josh Colwell-Block spoke about, is the lease on tech equipment. As some of our older devices are falling off, we are in the need to replenish those devices. So you'll see a modest increase there, but that is directly to put devices in the hands of students, which we think is important here. So this is a just numerical view of our debt service, but I think the next slide is actually really helpful to see. Our debt service, as you can see, over time will be declining. So our next big drop off in debt service will be for the 2023-24 school year. So not the year we're budgeting for, but the year after that. And I think that context will give us some helpful information as we talk about some of the facilities needs that Dr. Ackerman shared and Joe Gamondo just spoke about a few minutes ago. So that's something that the board should just keep in mind as we talk about planning for capital projects. In interfund transfers, we have our district contribution for the summer special education program. It's called a transfer to special aid fund. That number is staying flat based on what we predict the needs for next year. However, the transfer to capital line is one I've spoken about several times. For the West Orchard roof, we're going from $360,000 to $600 additional $1,000 to fund that roof project and hopefully get as much of that roof done as we can in this coming school year. In revenues, you've seen these slides as well. So obviously property taxes and state aid are the largest components of our budget, and they are also the largest increases we have this coming school year. If there's questions about revenue, I can come back to that, but here's the detailed kind of view. I did not split the real property taxes between Newcastle and Mount Pleasant just yet because those rates won't be finalized until the summer. I do share what they could look like if the current information is going to remain the same later on in the presentation, but I believe that there'll be changes. So I didn't want to represent it here, but overall, we're showing a 2.79% increase in our real property taxes. Our state aid overall is going up 3.28%. You'll see some fluctuation just a little bit between the categories here, but our building aid is based on our current projection, based on actual filed projects and the aid that will be flowing. And then all of the other aid categories is about $8.3 million in the current governor's proposed budget. We haven't seen a final state budget yet, though what I've been hearing, I was in Albany a few weeks ago with an ASBO conference. We spoke with the legislators directly. All things seem to be good. There does not look like there's going to be any surprises that would negatively impact our budget. I don't expect a big windfall either. So, you know, it's good to be consistent. That's great. We'd love more, but I think we should be at least not concerned about losing any of this state aid in the current school year. Appropriated fund balance. I've just categorized this as unassigned. We did have it broken out between unassigned and sale of property in the past, but I just felt that it's important just to say we're going to use unassigned fund balance at $3.5 million for the current school year, which is a small decrease. Sales tax is another increase where we're seeing the sales tax rate change that happened a few years ago now in Westchester County is helping, as is probably all of the Amazon packages that are flowing to people's homes and whatnot, because I think, you know, the sales tax is being very much located in our community. So we're seeing some increases to that. So we've taken advantage of that in our budget projections. You'll see some of the other charges for services, including continuing education. The charges for the student charges and fees is really related to the non-resident staff members who attend the district. We do bill them for their supplies and materials that they contribute. So I thought it was important to show the consistency of that in this coming budget. In the use of money and property, interest earnings has been very low. It continues to be low, although we see interest rates rising. So we've adjusted that to be more in line with what we're actually seeing. And we spoke in previous presentations about the sale of obsolete technology devices. So that's where you'll see the rental sale of equipment line going up. It's thanks to Josh Block and his team for negotiating with some of the vendors some really good trade-in values on those devices. And then miscellaneous revenues is showing a modest decrease. Some of this is largely based on the accounting practices we're having. We do not intend to have many purchase orders carried over next year that we need to reverse in and show as a refund prior years. It's more of an accounting adjustment than anything else. So that was quickly through the revenue. Fund balances, here's my current projection. I will say that, you know, I'm concerned about the fund balance still. I do expect to see some tax certs. I do expect to see our employee benefit accrued liabilities reserve be used as some of our staff who retire or separate. We need to use that reserve to pay for their accrued vacation or sick time per their contracts or what have you. And you know, there is still some uncertainty into our current year expenses and our current year revenues. So I'm confident that this projection is good. Do I think it's perfect? No, but I think we're managing our expenses and our revenues in a way that allows us to support the budget next year with the 3.5.
Sorry, that was I was going to say something, but I didn't mean to mic like that. I just want to remind the community and the board, we're still recovering from COVID,
Yep.
where other districts got some supplemental support from the federal government or from the state. We did not because of how we were classified. So that's part of what Andrew is forecasting for you in terms of our fund balance. That puts us in a little bit of a different position than maybe other school districts, but we'll continually be mindful of what we need to do to make sure that we recoup the money that we needed to spend out during the first year of the pandemic to support the elementary and middle school model. So thank you, Andrew.
So I've shown the board this property tax calculation before. The thing that I need to hammer home is we are tax cap compliant in this budget, and it's a simple majority vote is necessary to pass this budget. These are the simplified tax cap calculations, and this is the more detailed slide. Both of them show that we are the cap is $3,173,211 or 2.79%, which is what we're using for our tax levy for the coming school year. If the budget were to fail and we need to go to contingency budget, how would that happen? Our vote will be May 17th. If it's approved, we move to our approved budget as presented. If it's not approved by the voters, the board could adopt a contingency budget or go out to vote with a new budget or same budget. And if that budget fails, then you go to contingency budget at that point. What does a contingency budget really mean to us, though? Essentially, we would have to keep a $0 tax levy increase. So, the $3.1 million that I shared, right, would need to be found within the existing budget. There are also some restrictions on expenditures and the types of spending we could have. And there's a percentage of allocation between administrative costs and program and capital costs. We would detail some of those potential reductions, but make no mistake about it. Programs would be impacted if you go to a contingency budget because there's no other way to get there with 72% of your budget being for salaries and benefits. And that's basically that slide. So tax rates, as I near the end here. So with the $117 million levy and the current assessed values, equalization rates, it looks like the split between Mount Pleasant and Newcastle would result in tax rates of $115.93 per $1,000 of assessed value for Newcastle and $1,715.07 for Mount Pleasant. That is a 1.78% rate increase from the current year for Newcastle and an 8.2% increase in Mount Pleasant. These are my estimates. These are unofficial, that they are set by the town in late July, early August, but these are based on the current information we have. There are tax cert settlements, and there potentially are other exemptions that may fall off the tax roll by the time these rates are finalized that may change these. Anyone interested in voting has to be registered, and the best way to do that is to work with the district clerk, Lisa Elser, to be registered. The deadline is by May 12th, 2022, would be the last day to register to vote. There are applications for absentee ballots on our website, and Lisa is certainly able to help anyone register to vote if they need that help. With that, I will see if there's any questions for the board.
If there are no additional questions, you can keep going because you've asked questions throughout the presentation. So,
Yep. Okay.
Thank you for getting through like 50 plus slides very quickly and efficiently. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I tried to ask my questions as we went along because I knew I wouldn't remember what I meant by them by the time we went back. Okay, so is that, we're moving on?
yeah, there's still more slides on the. Are we going to keep going? Yeah, well, we have just the updates of the next
Oh, that's right.
steps in the
okay.
process.
The important thing is as Dr. Ackerman shared, is on Monday we'll have the budget forum with PTA, and we're really happy to do that on Monday. And then we'll have the budget adoption on April 6th, if the board so pleases. Our budget hearing will be May 4th, and then the library budget presentation will be on May 4th as well, and then the district vote on May 17th.
And if you could just move forward, just skip this slide, and then we just want to remind the community that at any point they can give us feedback on the budget. They can email the board directly, they can email Andrew, they can email me. Certainly, Andrew and I are willing to meet with anyone that has questions. So we welcome that opportunity to interact with our community in that way. So thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew. That was really comprehensive. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate you coming tonight. And
Can we say thank you to Kathy Lynch, who's in the audience, our district treasurer?
thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Kathy Lynch, my assistant Mary Marciano, and Joe Gramondo have been really instrumental in helping me build the budget this first time around. So I really want to just thank them all publicly. So thank you.
That was a lot of information, Andrew. Thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation. So, okay, and that's the end of our presentations this evening.
Okay. That brings us to committee reports.
So we had wellness
committee met yesterday, which I could not attend, but Jamie's going to give us a little update on that.
The Wellness Committee met yesterday. It was our best attended committee meeting, so we were excited about that. And the committee has made the decision to do some thinking and planning around getting involved in the Wellness Day, similar to what happened at the middle schools prior to the holiday break, to do that more widespread next year on the same day before the holiday break. And the members of the committee had great and creative ideas for that. So we look forward to getting a little momentum around that work, and hope that people will continue to attend the committee so we can have a robust and rich experience for our kids.
Thank you. And then we also had a facilities committee meeting on Monday, but I think Andrew could just do a short synopsis. I think we talked a lot about some of the items that we went over.
Yeah, I think we talked about the facilities capital projects that we're wrapping up. So the high school bond project is very close to being financially closed out. I mean, the work is all completed now, which is great. Greenhouse is on schedule for a May completion. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. And we talked about some of the needs that we expect from the BCS. So many of the things you heard tonight is really what we reviewed in the facilities committee.
Yeah, I think that sustainability completion date was May 22nd, if I'm correct. And then I think we also talked about the Bell Cafeteria.
Right, yeah. So in the planned work for next year, we have funding available for the Bell Cafeteria. We are going to really just do a facelift to the space, because where it's located and the cost of doing some major renovations just are not something that are a priority. So I shared, I think, on March 2nd that we are just going to use that funding to replace equipment, make it a better space for students.
Thank you.
Warren, do you have anything? There was a meeting of the sports boosters last week. Nothing in particular to cover other than we did talk about our fantastic swim team and them being honored here tonight. Some programs that I know Jeff has started. There was a great webinar about nutrition that a lot of the athletes attended, which I think they were going to put on the boosters website, which we heard was well viewed and people were very interested in. And I think they're going to start doing some more of that kind of work that really is very beneficial to our athletes and to the community. We were very happy that at this point last week with the good weather that all of our athletes were out on the fields, which doesn't always happen in March. So we were very fortunate, and it was very nice to even drive up here tonight and see a scoreboard going and the kids back out on the field. So I think we've been relatively lucky with the start of spring sports. They have some great ideas again for doing big community events like they did in the fall, outdoors, and now with things opening up, they're planning something for the spring. So I'm sure there'll be more on that upcoming. And then Hillary took over on the communications committee, and we had a meeting last week on our communications advisory committee. And this has been really helpful for us. We have 3 members of the community that give us some very good feedback on how we are communicating with our community members on a various, a big boat of issues, whether it's COVID, or we talked about, math, curriculum, our strategic plan, et cetera. So it was really helpful to get the feedback. I will say there was a lot of positive feedback, Christine, as Christine heard there on the COVID communication, which I think we were on communication. What number are we on now, Christine? 30?
I think I did 37 the other day.
37. But I think it has really worked out very well this year, and we get good feedback on that with how it's placed on the website. It gives the parents, at least the parents that spoke to us, that it gives them a really good opportunity to check back as a reference guide, and they feel that the information that is being pushed out towards them is incredibly helpful. And as a lot of this was brought up earlier tonight about what we're doing in terms of the community forums on our equity work, and we're going to be revisiting a couple of topics and probably doing forums that all align with our strategic plan. As we go into one more year of our strategic plan, we are going to have to review a lot of different areas, whether it's our DEI work, whether it's our social emotional learning work, all of our pillars there. So we discussed that and setting up those sessions. Is there anything else, Hillary, that you think that?
No, I think you've really covered it.
But we really do appreciate our community members who we are starting to now meet in person since we started this during COVID. So it was nice to see one of our members was able to meet with us in person, which was really, really great. And we appreciate their efforts in helping us communicate effectively, more effectively with our community.
I don't have anything else. Warren, you're good? Okay, great. That brings us to our public comment period. We welcome public comments, and in respect for each other's time, we ask that you limit your comments, please, to 3 minutes. Board members may also be contacted via email or phone. After the public comment period has been completed, the board members may have a discussion amongst themselves regarding the comments presented. Is anybody looking to come down? Okay, we have no public comments. That brings us then to approvals and ratifications. Can I have a motion, please, for items 3.1 and 3.2, which are the minutes of the March 14th and March 15th board meetings, respectively?
I'll move.
A second?
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I recommend,
Wait, hold on. I think, is it me? Or is it-
I turned off my mic just to be safe. I'll move 4.1.
I'll second. Any questions or conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll move 4.2.
A second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Brings us to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting by a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. So before we get to whether anybody wants to take anything off, can I have a motion, please, to take items 5.7 off the table?
I'll move to take it off the table, item 5.7.
And I'll second. Any questions or comments about taking it off the table? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, I will move to add item 5.7 to the consent agenda. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, would anybody like to take anything off the consent agenda to discuss separately or just remove? Nope. Okay. Then I will move the consent agenda, which is items 5.1 through 5.7.
I'll second.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion about the consent agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Can I have a motion, please, for item 6.1, which is acknowledging a contract previously approved by the superintendent?
I'll move 6.1. Or I'll move to acknowledge 6.1.
A second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's nothing under 7. Can I have a motion, please, for 8.1, which is acknowledging the receipt of the claims auditor report for February of 2022?
I'll move 8.1.
A second?
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to notice of future meetings. Our next meeting is Wednesday, April 6th. You don't get to hang out with us next week. Which will be at 7:30, which is the budget adoption meeting. We'll be here. And then the meeting after that is Tuesday, April 19th, which is a 9 a.m. meeting for the BOCES budget and election, which is not set by us. That is when all districts are voting on the BOCES budget and election. And that will be in the Ed Center in the boardroom on the second floor. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please, at 9:22?
I'll move to adjourn at 9:22.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.